the key to navigate waswasa and negative thoughts is to understand that not everything that comes back that my mind comes back to me with, whether it's from shaitan or my own self, that I have to give it power. I have to believe every thought that my mind comes back to me with, and I can just let it pass. Meaning that I can just not give it so much power, and I can engage in dhikr, and I can engage in the remembrance of Allah, and I can activate this heart that has a greater intelligence and remember the truths of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this heart comes to life with, that can override those thoughts of the mind. And this is really powerful work. Many people have not developed the muscle. In the beginning, you're like, what does that even look like? What does that even mean, right? To understand that this mind is designed to be humbled, okay? It's not designed to be the final authority over you. It's not designed to be your Rabb. It's not your Lord, and it's not something you worship. So when thoughts come, I no longer believe every thought that my mind comes back to me with, okay? My goal is that when someone gets an intrusive thought or a disturbing thought, especially if it disturbs you, automatically you know that's not from you. So you let it pass as if you're not believing it. You have to train yourself to do this. I'm not engaging. It's a battle you won't win. You see, what happens with intrusive thoughts is you start fighting it. No, I'm not like that. Or let's say shaitan comes to you and says something about Allah, something horrific, or something horrific about yourself, something horrific about your capacity to do harm, right? This is, many people experience intrusive thoughts like this, and may Allah bring ease to them. It's a very difficult struggle. And essentially what it's like they're a prisoner of their own mind, right? And so learning to understand that in those moments, that if you start engaging in the battle, so shaitan comes to you with a thought that you're a horrible person, that you're capable of doing this, or you view Allah this way, or view yourself, or you view others this way in very disturbing ways. Once you engage and you start fighting that, and you start saying, no, I'm not, and you look for proof why you're not, you're losing. You lost the battle. The only way you can win this battle is if you don't engage, and you practice sitting with the fear that comes up when you don't engage. So the reason why it's a loop and why it's hard for people to leave negative thoughts is because, one, if you don't intercept it with something greater, it will spiral into something else. So this is why dhikr is important. Intercepting thoughts at its bud is very important, but also it spirals because you're looking. Well, what happens is that when an intrusive thought comes up, a human being wants to prove that it's wrong about them, and because otherwise they feel fear. So the fear comes up and says, no, I have to engage, and I have to prove that this is wrong, and I have to look for proof why this intrusive thought is not right, to calm themselves. So actually, the way out of this is just to learn to sit with the fear. They're afraid of the fear itself. So they're afraid of the fear that comes up when they don't engage in the thought. And part of the work with helping people with intrusive thoughts is training them to sit with the fear, sit with the anxiety, and not escape. So let's say somebody is like afraid to touch something because they think that that's going to contaminate something else. For OCD clinical work, the actual therapy is immersion therapy. It's getting them to sit with the fear that comes up and getting them to touch that thing that they're afraid of. Why? Because shaitan is painting you a picture that is harmful to you. And once you touch it, you're showing him that you're not paying attention to his fear mongering, right? So that's more like OCD, on the clinical side. But with typical waswasa, it's also, in a way, it's very similar. You're not going to show shaitan that every thought he has power over you. Let's say you're about to give charity. You get the thought, no, keep it to yourself. What's the solution? I'm going to do it. Rip the Band-Aid is what I call it. Rip the Band-Aid and do it. It's the same thing for someone. I give the same example for someone who has like OCD. You have to rip the Band-Aid and do what he's telling you is going to harm you. So you're about to do good. You get a waswasa, do it anyway. That's how you show. You say astaghfirullah and you do it anyway. You show shaitan that your whisperings do not have power over me. You show shaitan who you worship through your actions. But if you sit there with the fear of giving charity, guess what? That thought is going to spiral. Because, and Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he taught us this. He says, if you don't nip the negative thought, the evil thought at its bud, when you first sense it, it affects your states and affects your behaviors. He said this hundreds and hundreds of years before cognitive behavioral psychology was even developed, which is what we utilize in helping people, in treating people with generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, many of the disorders. So the key to navigating waswasa and negative thoughts, any thought that takes you away from Allah, any thought that is negative about yourself, about others, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to train yourself to walk towards Allah in all your conditions. I don't worship this mind. I don't worship everything that it comes back to me with. Okay? So, and then I'm gonna show through my actions that truth. So how do I show that? So how do I do that? Is that I have to prove. You prove what is true through your actions, by the way. Your feelings and your thoughts don't always reflect what is true. You see how, you know how someone could claim something 1,000,000 times, but then their actions reflect the truth? It's the same thing. You could get 1,000,000 negative thoughts, so much waswasa. It is what you do that matters. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have this in a hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us this, that do you know that, which is that if you have a thought to do something bad and you don't do it, what happens? You get rewarded. Which tells us what? Your thoughts don't define you. And they don't define, your thoughts don't define you in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He does not judge you for the thoughts that enter and go. He judges you for how you act and what you do. So you get a negative thought. Let's say you get a negative thought about somebody, you know, you become, you know, maybe you get this thought of jealousy towards someone. But then you say, Allahumma barik for this person. Oh Allah, please put barakah in whatever you're jealous that this person has. And then you're making dua for this person. So what are you doing? And this thought could be from shaitan, right? It could be from, a part of it could be from your own psychology, you know, things that happened in the past, could be from shaitan. It's all integrated in there, right? But it doesn't matter. You are saying, okay, that is a thought, but you know what? I'm gonna act not in accordance with that thought. I'm gonna elevate myself and act in accordance with what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you say astaghfirullah and you pray for that person. How powerful do you think shaitan's gonna be over you when you do that? It didn't work. They didn't give in to the thought. They didn't start engaging in a mental battle that they can't win. They didn't use this energy to stay in their mind. They said, how do I show up through my actions? They got the formula. And it's a muscle. It's something you have to constantly work on. It doesn't come overnight, you know.